I'm sure all of our guys are tired of doing one-on-ones against each other. They all know each other very well. This is going to give our team an opportunity to compete against somebody new. We're going to hit a lot of different situations in the next couple of days here. Should be an opportunity for us to really improve our football team, and that's what we're looking forward to doing.
Now, back to Cofield and Company in the Findlay Toyota studio.
Cofield and Company back on a Monday. Let's get into some NFL. Let's get into the big story here in Vegas, and got a lot of attention over the weekend after Dana White tells a story on the Gronkcast during the UFC event saying he put together a deal for Tom Brady and Gronk to come to the Raiders, but John Gruden said no. And now tomorrow is set up for Derek Carr press conference day with national media coming into town. And who will ask Derek out of the gates, Derek, are you the mother blanker? Because that's what everyone's wondering about now. When Tom Brady mentioned and someone during the shop that they chose that guy over him, are they crazy?
And even better, when Carr a couple months later said he had been assured by a good source that he was not the mother blanker. He said if he was that, he would have to fight the guy.
Ooh.
So I guess that means he's fighting Tom Brady this year.
Trey Wang goes in, working with Caesars, formerly ESPN Radio National, of course, a big star on ESPN on the television side. How you doing, Trey?
Better than Derek Carr? That's what it is.
I'll just tell you, Camp Carr is very sensitive. This one is real bad for Camp Carr.
Well, there's a million levels to get into this, right? First of all, thank you, Dana, for the unbridled content. Like, Dana found out very quickly after he told that story, there's a difference between being Dana White, all-knowing grand poobah, master of time, space, and dimension of the UFC, and then not having that role in the NFL, because that's Roger Goodell's domain, right? Like he found out very quickly, oh, shit, like that's not how I'm supposed to do things if I'm talking about football. So I do feel bad for Derek, because all he's ever done is try his best and play hard, and now everyone's going to ask him, are you the MFer? Like, are you the guy? Because before this story came out, a lot of people thought it was either Ryan Fitzpatrick with the tampering of the Miami Dolphins, that the NFL said didn't happen, wink, wink, it did, or Ryan Tannehill with Tennessee and Mike Vrabel. And now suddenly it's Derek Carr's turn to take a ride on the Ferris wheel.
Well, isn't the positive spin that Derek can go with, hey, John Gruden chose me over Tom Brady?
Yeah, sure. And then the NFL chose to snipe Tom Brady from Washington's emails. So, I mean, I'm not sure how much of a bonus that actually ends up being in the long run.
It's wild. A lot of craziness going on around this team for sure. What are your thoughts on the Raiders in general this season as they prepare to embark with a new coach and some new stars on the team?
Yeah, and a new GM, a whole front office change. You know, it's interesting. I want to say this up front because I believe it wholeheartedly, and I've believed it ever since he's been in the league. Derek Carr is a really good quarterback, okay? Like, the narratives around Derek, I think, are so far removed from reality, they almost don't make sense. But here's the problem. If you're ranking quarterbacks in his own division, at best he's third, and in most situations he's fourth. And that's not a knock on him at all in any way, shape, or form. It's just an indication of how deep the quarterback depth is in the AFC West. And I think you could make a very compelling argument that the quarterback depth in the AFC West going into 2022 is the best of any division in the history of the NFL.
I think it's a good discussion. We've been talking about it all summer long. We actually, just to go back to the mother of this and that and Brady and the whole deal with Dana, we were having a discussion earlier in the show. Did Gruden actually make the right decision? Did he pick the right guy?
Well, if he did that, right?
Yeah.
I mean, we don't know that.
Yep.
I mean, I'm not trying to cast aspersions on Dana White or any way, shape, or form, but this is all sort of, and I said, and they said, and he said, and she said. So that has to be the lens with which we look through this. But by the way, I thought it was very interesting when Mark Davis was asked about all of this.
Yep.
In light of what happened to the Dolphins and how hard they were slapped by the NFL. His defense was, the Watergate response. I can't recall. I can't.
Long time ago.
I don't know what that was.
That was awesome.
Maybe it could have been. I'm not sure. I don't know. I can't say. Which, technically is the smart thing for him to do. Let's be honest. Yeah. Smart attack for him to take. But I have no idea if any of it makes any sense.
Yeah, we're operating with maybe some more inside knowledge because this is a story that Adam Hill, my partner, covered and got a rash of crap over because you want to explain to Trey the photo and then, details of Mark Davis talking with Brady. Go ahead.
Yeah, I mean, it all started at a UFC event January 19th, 2020, and I reported when this happened, and a lot of people talked about the conversation that was had cage side. I can tell you with 100% certainty it was not the only conversation that night, and we have actual proof of that not being the only conversation that night between Mark Davis and Tom Brady. So this is a thing. And by the way, I know that you said, hey, it's Dana White talking, and I've covered Dana long enough to know you can't always just go with what Dana says. This is not
correct.
I think it's important to note this is not Dana White spewing this story. I keep saying Rob Gronkowski reported Tom Brady agreed to a deal with the Raiders. Rob Gronkowski did, not Dana White by himself.
Well, to be clear, if I'm correct, I want to make sure and please correct me if I'm wrong. Rob said to Dana, "Tell the story,"
and then at the end said, "You told the story," and that's exactly what happened.
Okay, yeah. Listen, all this makes all the sense in the world. The question is, how much sense can we sort of frame it in a world that doesn't get anybody in trouble? Right? That's where we all are right now. Right? That's the whole scenario with us right now. It's like, okay, how do we do this without openly lying? That sort of allows us to let a smidgen of truth out without getting us in any trouble. I mean, those are the whole parameters about this entire discussion.
Yeah.
I'm thinking, well, one, would Brady have had the success with the Raiders that he had with the Buccaneers? Probably not. And if
I agree.
We don't know what would have happened with Brady there, a lot of circumstances change, but based on the fact that the Raiders fell apart because one, Gruden got outed for the emails, and you had the horrific thing with Ruggs. Damon Arnett turned out to be a jackass. I mean, let's address this. Like, Brady might have been driven into retirement by now by the Raiders.
Yeah, listen, and this always comes out when I always say this. People are like, "Oh, you're hating on Tom Brady." I'm not hating on Tom Brady, but circumstances matter. Like, situations matter.
Yep.
Other positions around him matter. There's a reason why the last couple of years in New England he wasn't successful outside of the two games he had with Josh Gordon and Antonio Brown in 2019, where they scored a bajillion points. And then guess what? Those two players left, and oh my God, suddenly it wasn't any good anymore. Which is why I'm a big believer in the idea that wins and losses are in no way, in any way, shape, or form, a quarterback stat. So what you're saying is accurate, right? Had Tom Brady, as we know him, gone to the Raiders in that time in that situation, he wouldn't have had Mike Evans. He wouldn't have had Godwin. He wouldn't have had eventually Antonio Brown. He wouldn't have had Rob Gronkowski coming out of retirement. And if you don't think those players are part of the success of Tom Brady in Tampa Bay, then quite frankly, you don't understand the game of football and how interrelated it is. Like, what you're saying is accurate. Tom Brady, just as an entity going to Vegas with the weapons he had around him in Vegas, had that happen in 2020, the success that he had might not have been anywhere near what he had in Tampa Bay. And even in Tampa Bay, it was a struggle. Remember, that year they started the year 7-5. And he had the infamous 4-down situation in that Monday night game in Chicago, or was it a Sunday night game? I can't remember, when he lost count of what the downs were. And then they got it straightened out, and the Chiefs' offensive line got beat up in the Super Bowl, or prior to the Super Bowl, and they went on to win. So none of these things happen in a vacuum. You don't just place Tom Brady into the Raiders of 2020 and say, oh, it would have worked out the same way because Brady is Brady. That's fool's gold. It doesn't make any sense.
I have some bad news for you. With we know you do the great work over at Caesars and all the stuff that is going on there. I have an NFC Championship bet on the Atlanta Falcons, and I'm watching them right now. They're clearly going to cash that ticket.
Wait, what?
Yeah, I do.
Wait, what's happening?
Are they?
Yeah, well, remember when this is the worst bet ever, but remember Kyle Pitts sent out like this really weird tweet, and it like everybody just ran with, hey, they're definitely signing Deshaun Watson in Atlanta. And I was like, 150 to 1 to win the NFC Championship? I got to bet this. It's going to be a loser. But the Falcons look good right now.
Yeah. Well, listen, I'm glad that you're happy, I guess would be the thing I would say. Like, I've tried to say this, and it's gotten really different or even more amplified over the last couple of years. when you had 4 preseason games and the starters actually played in some of those preseason games, I think the weight mattered a little bit more. But now you have 3, and really the joint practices and the scrimmages that you have with other teams, to me, are more important to what you're seeing from your team's success heading into the regular season than a preseason game. For example, the Ravens have won, 21 or 22 straight preseason games, and they didn't make the playoffs last year. And certainly a lot of that was due to injury, but that's a part of it. Like, this is fool's gold. You can't sort of extrapolate team success from the preseason into the regular season. The Lions infamously in 2008 won all 4 preseason games and then proceeded to win, carry the one at the 5, but 0 of the 16 regular season games. Okay, so it's not an indicator of team success. It's an indicator of individual success. If someone has a really good preseason, especially a rookie, you might see them doing well in the regular season. But team results in the summer in no way, shape, or form translate into the regular season. Aaron Rodgers last played a preseason game in 2018, I believe, and he's the back-to-back MVP of the NFL.
Trey Wang goes with us. What's going on at Caesars? What's going on with Caesars Rewards leading up to the season?
Yeah, we're really excited. We did the Trey's Trends thing launching last year, and we're going to continue that this year. We're also we're taking our act on the road this year, beginning in October. We've got a bus with a mobile studio. We're going to a bunch of NFL games in the regular season, and we're going to have a sort of a pregame show as well as a sort of a tailgate party for the fans that are there. We're really excited about that. We're going to be definitely involved in obviously all the college football playoffs, and when the Super Bowl gets to Arizona, let's just say we're going to take over a very specific piece of land that a lot of people would like, where you might be able to swing a club for 18 holes and make it the perfect hangout for everybody going to Super Bowl week. So big stuff coming from that. We're really excited about it.
I want you to grade a play for me. I think we're going to find out the next 2 days who's actually calling the plays for the Patriots. The Pats are in town, joint practice a couple of days with the Raiders. I am bullish on the Patriots now because I believe Bill Belichick is going to be the O coordinator.
Well, I think he is. And look, Bill Belichick is the de facto everything in New England, right? Like, whether it's the defensive coordinator, offensive coordinator, linebackers coach, where his son is, like, whatever the Patriots do, it all goes through Belichick. But it's interesting, right? What you just said is interesting. They're going to have joint practices together. That is normally something that Bill does only with teams in the other conference. If you look at where he's gone over the years, it's usually been joint practices and a scrimmage against somebody from the different conference. I think it's a really interesting situation that he's doing it with someone in his own conference this year. I just keep an eye on that.
Do you think this is going to work? If he is the O coordinator, or if it's Joe Judge or Patricia, or could it be a disaster?
Well, if we're judging by their head coaching experiences, it's a disaster, whether it's Joe Judge or Matt Patricia. Like, if you're really being honest about the Bill Belichick coaching tree, the real star of the Bill Belichick coaching tree was never a coach under Bill Belichick. It's Mike Vrabel, who was a player under Bill Belichick.
Yeah.
Bill O'Brien has had some success, some limited success. But obviously, up 24-0 on Kansas City. Oops, that didn't really work out. So all these coaches that have worked under Bill have been okay at best, and most of them have been less than okay. But Mike Vrabel and Brian Flores to some degree, like Brian Flores, what he was able to do in Miami when wink, wink, Stephen Ross, the owner, wasn't telling him to tank, #SureJan, did really, really well. Did really, really well. Like, to me, the two shining examples of the Bill Belichick coaching tree are Brian Flores and then Mike Vrabel, a guy who played for Bill but never coached under Bill.
I'll give you a couple of prop bets that you guys have posted. I just want your take on it. These are really interesting. You're doing regular season wins for NFL teams versus college teams. Patriots against Notre Dame. Who has more wins in the season?
I think at this point I'd have to take Notre Dame. Right?
Really?
Well, what we've talked about with Mac Jones is the issue whether or not Joe and Matt Patricia are going to be the ones guiding him, or is it going to be Bill Belichick? And that's going to dictate the success of the New England Patriots. I think Notre Dame's in a pretty good position right now. I might want to take Notre Dame in that situation.
Okay, another one is a fascinating story to follow. Is Trubisky going to start, 3, 4, 5 games, see how it goes, and then Pickett takes over? Is Pickett going to get the assignment from the get-go? You can bet the Steelers against Pitt wins. Pitt right now is favored -130. I think they're wrong on that one.
I agree. Listen, I think Mitch Trubisky is going to be the starter for the majority of the season for the Pittsburgh Steelers. And I think they're going to have some success. Like, they have a lot of issues, right? Their offensive line has been problematic, and their biggest issue is a quarterback. But I will tell you that all the people that I talked to in Buffalo last year when Mitch was backing up Josh Allen raved about Mitchell Trubisky. Look, he needed to get out of Chicago. He needed to get – some things are not a player's fault. Like, obviously, the Bears should have taken Patrick Mahomes or Deshaun Watson pre-massage therapy, Deshaun Watson, before Mitchell Trubisky. That wasn't his fault, okay? That was the situation he was put in. And maybe he didn't respond to it as well as he could have. But I think Mitchell, in a new situation under Mike Tomlin, a much better head coach than he ever had in Matt Nagy in Chicago. I think he's going to thrive, and I think he's going to surprise a lot of people.
Trey, you're awesome. We appreciate you hopping in. I'm glad to hear Caesars is really beefing things up, and you guys are going to be on the road. I think that's a really cool element.
Yeah, it's going to be a lot of fun. And obviously, I'll say this real quickly. The two best stadiums in the NFL, in any order you want to make them, are SoFi Stadium in L.A. and Allegiant Stadium in Las Vegas. Think of it as the world's best Maui gyms. Like, you can't see in, but you can see out perfectly.
There you go. Thanks, Trey. Have a good night.
You got it, guys. Take care.
Trey Wang, former ESPN radio star, ESPN NFL expert for a long time, the anchor on their NFL shows. Notre Dame, I think, is going to lose at least 4 times this year. So can the Pats win 9? I was fibbing a little bit for delivery on the question. I don't know that I love Bill Belichick as the O coordinator, and I do believe he is actually going to run a lot of the offense. What does that take from the defense, which he's always kind of backstopped?
But it's kind of a big assumption, though, because I don't think he's going to.
I'm basically stealing that point from one Albert Breer, and we'll bring that sound tomorrow. Breer, when he was on Fox Sports Las Vegas, nationally with Colin Cowherd, said that last week during the joint practice, when they got, I think it was in 2-minute situations, Belichick took over.
I mean,
he was the one dealing with Mac Jones the most, not quarterback coach Joe Judge. Which, yes, I'm serious. He's the quarterback coach. No. Wow.
Is Mac Jones going to play special teams? Joe Judge is a special teams coach.